We're going to hear from the practical application side of it, two great band directors from Ohio that use the techniques that we're going to talk about throughout this clinic every day with their kids. So you're going to get a chance to, it's like, this really works, we really do use this, so this is how it goes. So thanks so much for being here. So what I want to start with, the thing that we all learned wrong, which is posture. So breathing equals movement. Your body has to move to be able to breathe. And most of the time when we play sitting down. And so in order for our bodies to be able to move easily when it's time to breathe to play, anytime, we have to know how to sit with our body so that our body will execute this movement properly. We all learned it exactly the same way. We learned feet flat on the floor, sit up straight. That's what we learned. I learned the same thing. And in terms of really good breathing, really good beginning to starting of anybody on an instrument, those two things have zero to do with good breathing. Nothing, not one thing. Zero. So we want to get that straight today, and it's really easy because I'm just going to replace those two pieces of instruction with two new pieces of instruction. We're going to actually get to feel it together as we go through this. So breathing equals movement. We have to be able to breathe to be able to do that, and we have to know something about our body. Well, there are no muscles in your body designed to hold you up. They're for pushing, pulling, and rotating. So if we start with sit up, we engage muscles which they don't actually exist. We start to have extensions that happen because we're asking them to sit up. And why is it so important that we get something as easy as posture right in beginning band? Is it about playing great? No. It's because you're at least the third most important adult in that kid's life. If they have two parents, right? If they don't, then you're higher on the list. They listen to everything you say, and they remember it forever. How do I know that? As a 46-year-old brass player, most of my students are in their 60s and 70s, and they have chop problems. And when you have chop problems, when you come see me, it's bad. So when you come to see me, they're in a huge amount of stress, and they're trying to go through their whole life backwards, trying to find a little nugget of information that will get them out of the trouble that they're in with their face, or with their fingers, or with their vocal cord. So if at the beginning we give them the right information, when they get back to us in their timeline, they're like, okay, well, what did Mr. Valdriguez say about how I'm supposed to sit when it's time to play the tuba? And the right information was put there by us. We offer them a piece of salvation, a way out of the stressful situation that they're in. And if you think, like, there's no way my kids are going to remember me when they're 70, they remember your last name all the way to the day they die, I'm sure, because I work with people in their 80s and they still talk to you about Mrs. So-and-so and Mr. So-and-so, and they remember your name and they remember the exact words you say. I just worked with a singer that came in from the Metropolitan Opera having trouble with her vocal cords, sat down and I said, tell me how you're supposed to sit. She said, feet flat on the floor, sit up straight. I was like, wow, you're the same teacher that we all did. So we have to get this information right because you're that important in a musician's life. Whether they become a singer in the Metropolitan Opera, or they just play in a community band, or whether they don't ever play after they walk out of your door ever again, they remember you forever. So if we give them a piece of information that's correct with their anatomy, that allows for them to go through what they're going through, which is massive size change when we're teaching beginning band, we offer them something that's dynamic that they can take with them forever. See, feet flat on the floor, sit up straight is static. So then what happens when that 7th grade trombone player who has an incident of 50 shows up in the room, right? And their knees are way up to their ears, and they're trying to sit up straight because you're the third most important person in their life. So they're trying to do what you asked them to do, yet their whole body's under stress because they're too tall for the chair. And we wouldn't even think of feet flat on the floor, sit up straight as being anything other than totally innocuous. That can't hurt anybody. Problem. So that's why I'm so glad you're here today for this little portion that I'm going to take care of before Josh and Rick get started, which is to give this little bit of information correct so that they can breathe and move, so that it can happen. So let's feel it together. So I'm going to sit on my piano bench here. You guys are sitting on your band chairs over there, and we're going to do what our band director told us to do. We're going to do what we tell our students to do. The last time we told our students to do it, right? It's not going to happen anymore. So let's just sit with our feet flat on the floor, and we'll sit up straight. And this is a piano bench, so this is pretty good for me. It's pretty good height. But for most of the people in the room that are not taller than like 5'6", your knees are way above your hips. So to sit up straight requires abdominal strength to keep you from falling back on your glutes. All right? So let's breathe here. Let's sit up straight with our feet flat on the floor and sit up straight, just like you want your 5th grade band to do. Great. Let's breathe in for 8 beats together. In, breathe, in. That doesn't feel so good. Out. Right, exactly. Great. Now let's do what we need to do to get the body to be able to move well. What's important? Your ribs have to move when you breathe. Your ribs are attached to your spine, so your spine must be in the right position. How do we make that happen? We balance over the part of our body that's right below us when we're sitting. Funny enough, we're called the sits bones. S-I-T-Z. I have a master's in obvious. So we're going to sit down over those butt bones. You have a left one and a right one, and you don't need your hands to find them. And if you think about being balanced over them and you lean too far forward, suddenly we're sitting on the back of our leg. If you lean too far back past your sits bones, now we're back in our glute, right? Otherwise known as your iPad, right? So what we're going to do is try to be balanced over our sits bones. Now, if you're too tall for the chair, which a lot of you are in these convention chairs, you have to have your knees go below your hips. So then here's the two new pieces of instruction. Sit balanced over your sits bones, knees below your hips. If your knees can't go below your hips because your feet are flat on the floor, then do something about it. Tuck them under and over here. Do what my band director told me never to do. Cross your ankles. Let's just do that because it's like the most taboo. Don't do that! Let's do it. I'm a tuba player. There's an inverse relationship between the quality of the behavior and the distance to the podium. So, well, you recognize my face from the post office. So anyway, so let's sit balanced over our sits bones, not too far forward, not too far back, and just cross your ankles. And let's breathe in for 8 beats. In, breathe, in. Wow, it's better. Out. As a band, you sound better. How much easier is that? Why? Because now your body can move, your ribs can move. Here's what's not happening when you're sitting with your feet flat on the floor and you're extending. Your ribs won't move because your spine is in the wrong position. So as you breathe in, we had that tight feeling in our chest. You know what that was? Your lungs slamming into your ribs and they wouldn't move. So we got to create some ability to be able to move, and it starts with how we teach posture. Let me say it again. Sit balanced over your sits bones, knees below the hips. However that needs to happen for however tall they are. This piece of instruction is dynamic. It goes with the growing 7th, 8th, 9th graders. Blah, 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 blah. So we want to make sure that that's happening, because if we teach that from the beginning, movement's easy. And then all the stuff about breathing makes sense on the other side. Otherwise, we put their bodies under stress if we're teaching them to sit the wrong way. So it's got to start there. Then after that, we got to get them moving. So we're going to do that together now. There's a handout, so we don't need to look at it. But we're going to get a chance to move. So now that we know how to sit and how to be balanced, we're going to get it right forward to sit down. So the most ultimate place to be balanced is standing up. You just need a little bit of room to move around. I'll tailor it to an overpacked, fire-coated room. So everybody stand up. Our ribs are connected to our spine, so that has to move first. So put your hands to the side like this. You don't hit your neighbors. Everybody's going to twist side to side. We're going to twist out that spine. You know, this exercise brought to you by Snap, Crackle, and Pop, right? Good. Put your hands up in the air. And this exercise brought to you by the Chicago Police Department. A little bit different. And let your hands go. We can't really do it in this room. This room will flop around a little bit. This exercise brought to you by first grade recess. Right, excellent. Now come back to the middle. Our spine feels a little bit good. Spine's supposed to move in 6 different directions. We've just done 2. Let's go left and right. So take your left wrist and grab it with your right hand. Right, and I'm going to be a mirror, so I'm going to go the same way as you, okay? Everybody breathe in. Relax your shoulders. Very good. Do it again. Relax. Next exhale, head goes to the right. Everybody breathe in. Good. Now your body goes to the right. Breathe in and just lean. Now stay here and breathe in. Body comes up a little bit, let go. Body goes down a little bit more. We're stretching on the left side of our body. One more time. And let go. Come back out. Let go. Roll it out. Shake it out. 3 of the 6 different directions. Let's go the other wrist the other way. Other wrist the other way. Look straight ahead. Breathe in. Relax your shoulders. Feels so good. Next one. Breathe in. Head to the left. Good. Inhale. Exhale. Body. Wonderful. Breathe in and out. Stretch a little bit on your right side. Only go as far as you can breathe smoothly. If you're not breathing smoothly, that's not stretching. It's called torture. Good, come back up. Let go. Roll it out. Shake it out. 4 of the 6 different directions taken care of. We're going to do the last one, the 5th one. This is important. I teach this to COPD patients at hospitals, and they can do this in their wheelchair bound most of the time. If you do exactly what I say, you will not hurt your bad band director back. I promise, if I have one. Okay? Toes and heels together. Keep your thighs tight and your glutes tight, like you're jumping up off the floor. Then you're going to support your back. Maybe this will hold me. Pastures you would. Nice. I always wanted to stand on a piano bench because my band director would say, "Get down." So, make sure that when you're supporting your back, you're supporting it this way. This isn't really to support your back, this is just to keep you freaking out. What we're going to do is we're just going to bend backwards and open up our spine in the front. So support your back this way, keep your toes and heels together, your thighs tight, your glutes tight, and everybody just look up and breathe smooth. And only go back as far as you can breathe smooth. If you move back a little bit more and stretch a little bit more, great. If you can't, it's okay. Because this is more stretch than you do backwards for your spine all day anyway. Good, come back up, let go, roll it out, shake it out. Everybody's okay, nobody died. Excellent. And the last one we're going to do, and I'll probably just show you this because it can get a little bit weird in here to do this. The last one is we do our spine forward. So we're always going to go in with our chin in our chest, and we're always going to come out with our chin in our chest coming out. So let me show you that last. So we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The last one is this way. 6. Sorry, over here. And now we'll just be flopping over. I came to the clinic and saw Pat Sheridan's sit bones. Okay, so former students. Anyway, so that would be the last one. So we would extend up, we stretch up, put our chin in our chest, and then I'd flop over like this, and I'd breathe, and then relax, and I'd come out this way, chin on my chest, knees bent all the way up. So now my spine moves in 6 different directions. Breathing is easy. Last bit is working out before we would flow. So let's do that together. So we're going to breathe till we're too full, and we're going to breathe till we're too empty to get flexibility to happen in our muscles. Not because we're going to breathe like this in band. No way. This is just to become more flexible. So we call it 5-15-5. Breathe in and 8 with me for 5 beats. In, breathe, in. Now you're full. Relax. Now sip again. Sip again. The muscles that you can feel when you're breathing in are stretching, not working. So relax. Sip, sip, sip. Nobody will float away. Sip again, sip again. Now out loud for 5 beats. Loud. You get all of it out. I mean, empty as possible. Now hiss it out. Squeeze it all out. Yes. Now use your hands inside. Just go along. Roll it out. Shake it out. That's excellent. Smokers, welcome. So now we've done a little bit of a workout. There are lots of different exercises to get stretched out and to get worked out, but for the purposes of today, this is enough to sort of get started with our beginning band students. And the last one, we would want to go to a flow. This is a very easy way to breathe in. We're going to only breathe comfortably, fold it comfortably in a nice O shape, like Minnesota, like I bought my bongos from Nova Scotia at a Costco in Fargo, no, below my Minnesota friend. Okay, so that's the O shape we're going to be. So we're going to practice. We're going to go from E to U to O together like this rapidly. To get optimal shape for breathing in and out, and then we'll breathe in that shape. So let's create some awareness by doing it wrong to get it right. Here we go. And E to O. Bring it to U, now drop it to O. Nice and relaxed. Awesome. Let's breathe in this way so we can hear that nice shape, and out on our hands. Let's make it musical. In and out. 4 beats in, 4 beats out. Be even and not too full and not too empty. So easy. If you find that you're like, no, really full, no, empty, then that's a workout, not a flow. Be easier. Here we go. 4, 2, 3, breathe in and out and. Do it again, even. Not so much accent on the first beat of the exhale. Even. 2, 3. Awesome. In. Out. Not so much accent on the first beat of inhale. Smooth. You have whole 4 beats. Oh, that's so great. That's just the beginnings of good habits for beginning students. So when it is a quarter note inhale, they'll do it this way. Let's go 2, 4. 2 in, 4 out. 4 out. Stay relaxed. Legato inhales. 2. Let's go 1, 8. Ready? 1, 8. Out. 2, 3, 4. Nice and even. 6, 7. One more time. And out. Big sigh. Let it go. We'll talk a little bit more about what else we can do with our breathing a little bit later in the clinic. Everybody have a seat. Feel better? Yeah, you're supposed to feel better when you breathe. And guess what? Our students need that too. When I was the wind ensemble conductor for the year that I had them at UCLA, my 29-year-old grad students needed this to have a better rehearsal. So for sure little kids need it. And you know what? Everybody's going to say, well, what about it? No. The beginning, they're so flexible, there's no sociology yet, they haven't been into a dance, they don't care about looking good for anybody else, so it's time to go, they totally do it. They're totally all in. So there's no fear in that regard whatsoever. Not only that, but the little bit of 3, 4, 5 minutes of like, mayhem that might break out because you're doing something a little bit different in your classroom, that is energy that needs to leave the room anyway before the rehearsal. So why not give them a chance to get it out at the beginning? I really believe in that, and I didn't think high-level doctoral students would have as much benefit and had just as much benefit as somebody in 4th grade in their 3rd week. It's the same. So I hope you get a little bit of something about that. We'll have a little bit of time to talk a little bit more later. But for me, I travel all over the place. I work with band directors everywhere. And when I find people that are figuring ways out to teach in an environment where it's like, oh man, I only see my kids once a day, once a week for only in the months that end in Y. It's like you never see your grandkids anymore. And how are you going to make it happen? How are you going to do your job in the beginning band and make them have all this when you hardly ever see them? And I found a couple of guys that do it better than anybody I've ever seen. And they invented it themselves, so it's organic, they know it works. So I'm so happy to turn this part of the workshop over to Rick Cantor and Josh Van Gorder to talk about scalability.
Okay, we are very excited to be here. Whatever routine you have at the beginning of your class with your beginning band, it's really important that you establish a routine that's going to prevent bad habits. Some key things. Basics in your warm-up. Make sure that you apply these breathing exercises that Pat's talking about. I did not use these breathing exercises until I met Pat, and then suddenly I thought, well, I need to be doing this with my beginning band as well. A lot of times you think, this is something I need to do with my older band, my high school band, and so I had done it with them, and then when I started to apply it with beginning band students, 5th grade students and 6th grade students, I found that I didn't have flutes that were breathing between every note anymore. I had tuba players that could blow through phrases without any problem, and their tone quality improved so much. So having these breathing workouts at the beginning of your rehearsal, you're going to feel like that's extra time that maybe I can't spend. Totally spend it, because if you do, it's going to make all the difference in the world. Later on we'll talk about, there's an Arizona doctoral study. You can read about it in your handout later as well, in case you don't get to it, but students that did breathing gym exercises versus ones that students that did not do it, and the major impact that had on that program. During the rest of this presentation, we'll talk about some opportunities where you can teach musical and articulation concepts that you want via air and breathing workouts. So we'll be talking about that. One of the main things we're going to be talking about today is differentiated instruction, and that's catering your instruction to the needs of each individual student. And one thing that, as band directors, we feel like we have day-to-day really, really hard jobs. We have to prepare for concerts, we have to put on a show for the public, all of those kind of things. And so a lot of times individual assessment, or hearing our students individually, every single kid feels like it's just a daunting task and we can't do it. But without individual assessment, some things that we're going to deal with. Bad habits, and we all see these in our beginning band. Breath support issues, improper embouchure. They can't read notes and rhythms like we would like them to. And so we just stand in front of them and we hammer out these concepts over and over again, and they're not getting it. Whereas if we spent a little bit of time, found a way to hear each individual kid each week for just a small amount of time, we could solve some of these bad habits. So that in the end, we've spent that time, they're not going to feel any kind of failure. You know what these kids are like. They have all kinds of self-conscious feelings about what they're doing. This is all new. They're making these terrible sounds on their instrument, and they need our help. So that individual work that we spend with them, if we can find a way to do that quickly and effectively, we're going to help them be more successful. In the same regard, we have our students that are gifted and talented, the ones that are going to be our all-state musicians, they're going to be professional musicians someday, and a lot of those students, whether you know it or not, they are not getting the challenge that they need. So early on, they're saying, well, I don't want to do this, this is too easy, and so they quit. And so we're losing our future leaders, we're losing our students that are going to be the ones like you that are out in the real world making a difference every day. So we want to make sure that we're doing things for them, that they're not going to become bored or frustrated, lose motivation, and we don't want them to drop out of our program. So this is a little perspective. This is, like he said, he has a master's in obvious. This is one of those things too, but we have to look at this. The director approach to practicing. This is how we approach things. And we tell our students to do things like this. Break music down into smaller sections or chunks. Practice it that way. Focus on the harder measures first. Don't just run through the music. And of course, what students do very well, be patient. So this is what we want them to do. This is what students do. Run through a whole song over and over, making the same mistakes each time. This is what they do when they're not with you. And then they come back the next day and, did you practice? Yeah, I practiced. How did you practice? Well, I played it. Again and again. And then, of course, like my daughter does, who's 10 and in 5th grade band, play until you make a mistake and I can't play this, Dad, I give up. I'm going to go play a video game or something like that. So that's what they do. So we have to keep those things in mind when we're thinking about how students are motivated and how we can dangle that carrot in front of them and get them to do what we know is going to help them be more successful. We know students are motivated by a variety of things. Research shows that most students like to work, pretty much all students, they like to work on something that they want to play. They don't want to play what we want them to play. They want to play something that is important to them and is going to be fun for them to play. Some students like formal recognition for their accomplishments. Most of them do. They like some affirmation. They like you to call home and say great things about them. Some students are motivated by friendly competition between classmates. You know, those students that hey, I played that thing. Did you play it? Physical rewards, gifts, incentives, things like that. Not talking about bribery. We're talking about healthy incentives. Having ownership in their learning, meaning that this is their program. It's not your program. It's not my program. It's their program. They're the ones playing the instruments, and we need to make them feel that that is the case. And then the most important thing to consider is students live in a world of instant gratification now. When we were their age, we had to look, and some of you in here, even if you're the younger, new band directors of the world, you had to look things up in an encyclopedia. Okay? You had to go to the library and do research. They have Google. They go on their phone. It's pretty crazy how many beginning band students have a phone. You know, I didn't even have a walkie-talkie. So they go on and Google, you know, what is this? Where, you know, all that kind of stuff. So we have to kind of cater to that. So quick success is going to be the key to motivation. We have to find something that's going to make the individual student tick. That has to do with talking to them about what are their interests. Are they a basketball player? Are they, you know, what do they enjoy? And then find how that can link into what they're doing in their practice time. Find a way that they're going to feel success quickly. So that means instant gratification. I can play this right now, and I can move on and learn more. So the simplest way, talk to your students about the KISS method. Keep it simple and stupid. If it's simple, it's probably the right way. Don't overcomplicate things. They want it to be easy so that they can move on to success. Big thing, show students that you care about them. This is one of those obvious things, but we don't do it as much as we should. Show students you care about them and tell them often how much you're proud of them for their hard work. This is one thing that I started trying a few years ago, because I noticed that teachers were calling home about all kinds of bad things. We was in the teacher's lounge one time, and they were calling, so I'm calling this parent again about this. Try calling home about something that's fantastic. Find something that's fantastic. And here's the thing, do it in front of the student. So here's the story. I have a student, a former student who was in 7th grade at the time named Darius. He was about this tall in 7th grade, a little bit taller than me, which is saying a lot because I'm really tall. So anyway, it's a joke. Anyway, so Darius signed up for band in 7th grade after students had had a couple years of instruction. He said, I want to play the drum. And I said, okay, great, you're going to be a percussionist. We're going to play mallet instruments. We're going to do it. No, I just want to play the drum. So weeks and weeks we went back and forth, and he said, okay, I guess he's, you know, I'm not going to get him off my back. So he went home and he practiced. He realized it was easier than he thought, and it was actually pretty fun to play the bells and things like that. So he comes into rehearsal, and one day I'm rehearsing the band, and there he is back in the back of the room, just reading like a machine. I stopped the band and I said, Darius, it's amazing. How'd you do that? And he goes, practice. It's really great. So we had that great moment after class. I call him up and I said, hey, we're going to call your mom. Well, what do I do? He said, hey, you did great. So we're going to call your mom and we're going to tell her. So I get her on the phone and I played this up really great. This is a good thing to do too. So I called her and I said, hey, Mrs. Harris, I got your boy on the phone. Or I got your boy next to me. And she said, oh, what do you do? He said, well, I'll tell you what. He has become a true percussionist. He has gone home and practiced them. Everything that I told him to do, and he is just tearing it up in band. And I couldn't be more proud of him. And she said, get him on the phone. So I get him on the phone, and you can hear in the background, my baby, I'm so awesome. And this tall kid, he's about this tall, you understand her. Thanks, Mama. And so I tell you this because it's really important. We are so busy and we have so much going on, but if you instill that self-confidence in your students, there is nothing they won't do for you because they know how much you care about them. So tell your students you're proud of them and do it often. Right, hopefully, okay, here we go. We'll turn it over to Josh.
So there's really two sides to this, and we've been talking a lot about the student side. Well, we're all here because we're educators, and we want to make sure that this is healthy for us as well. I married a wonderful teacher, and she has since become an administrator in a neighboring district of mine, and so we talk often about the demands that are being put on administrators and educators. And I can't speak for the entire country, but I know in Ohio, we're definitely going through some changes. And I know from conversations with colleagues from elsewhere, it's definitely going that way in many other states. And so we need a way to assess our students, and we need a way to show tangible examples. When I talk to my wife about this, she says the two biggies are you need to be able to show growth, and you need to be able to prove that you're differentiating instruction. And it was wonderful this year for me to be able to show my principal at my school that I have this program and I'm using it with my students, and here's how I differentiate instruction, and here's how my students are showing growth. And it's very tangible. Usually the educator approach to this is, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? This is too much work and I already don't have enough time. Yeah? And what we need is a way to be able to do this daily or even weekly so that our students are showing the growth and we can prove it. We know that our students improve, but now we need to show that our students are improving. And really, using this program has made our jobs easier. And so that's a really nice bonus from this program.
Okay, so we're going to talk about how this whole concept came to be. Years ago, and I'm sure many of you in here have gone through the same type of thing. How many of you have ever dealt with any cuts in your schedule with your beginning band students? Yeah, it's happening like crazy. We do things, our schools do things so backwards. We have less time for instruction in beginning band when we need the most time, and then later on we get more time as the students get older. So my time was cut into, in beginning band, 5th and 6th grade, into 20 minutes a week at one point. And I had a great administrator. I talked to her and she said, this isn't going to be permanent, but I need you to deal with it for at least a couple of years. And I thought, well great, I can deal with it for a couple of years while my program goes down the toilet. And I thought, no, you know what? I'm dealing with some lemons here, I got to make lemonade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go home and I'm going to figure this out. So my wife, who's a first grade teacher, she said, you know, we teach how to make words by putting one word together, another word together, link them together, and we kind of chunked them together a little bit. I thought, that's what we need to do. I'm not going to be able to teach these students the way that I would like to necessarily out of the method book, because the other part of it was, and I still use method book, this is a supplement to it, but the issue was also that 20 minutes, I didn't mention this, is that 5 minutes into that 20-minute class with that homeroom, another homeroom came in 5 minutes into it. 5 minutes later, another one came in, and then 5 minutes later, another one came in, and the other one rotated out. So I was teaching a revolving door of bands, of homerooms. So I said, okay, I've got to teach it to the individual. So how am I going to do this? I have to do it quick, I have to do it effectively, I have to motivate them. So I had 4 measure phrases, and I said, okay, here's chunks, here's a wall chart. When you get it done, put a sticker up on the chart, and we'll go through this. There's a 5th grade level and a 6th grade level. Go to it. And I was thinking, okay, here we go. Well, in 2 weeks, most of the students went through their entire level. And they said, we need more. I said, really? So I've got 6th graders all of a sudden in a week going from not being able to hardly play to playing chromatic scales and doing all kinds of crazy things. And I thought, this is great. So I'm creating more levels. Eventually, come up with 4 levels of rhythm exercises, rhythm chunks, and then 4 levels of scale-based technical exercises, reading notes. And then for our percussionists, and we have chunk challenges, which are actual songs that they like to play, thrown in there as well that use the notes that they had been learning in the previous chunks. And then for our percussionists, we have snare drum exercises, 4 levels of those. So eventually, through all this, it turned into 4 levels, bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And the students got really motivated by this. So a little bit about the scale chunks. Each one teaches 1 or 2 new concepts. It's very, very straightforward. So they get it done quickly, they have quick success, and then they move on. It's going to motivate students when they have quick success, like we talked about. And then overall, it's going to make assessment really, really easy. It takes about, we'll find out later, but it takes about 8 to 10 seconds to hear each student. Give them a quick comment, work on this, and you move on. If they're not ready to play it, then say, you're not ready, I got to move on to some other students. So if you're able to do it in 8 to 10 seconds a student, you can hear every student in a matter of a short amount of time each week. Even if you have a large class, there are ways that you can kind of do that. So it's going to make differentiated instruction easy for the director. Josh is going to talk about. Oh, this is me. Okay. Before using chunks, this is the really fun part. Okay, because we get to involve you. You have to teach students about differentiated instruction and what that means. Johnny may be really good at math, and Susie may be really good at science. But it's not fair for Johnny to pick on Susie because she's not good at the other subject. So you have to teach them about how that works. Here's a great way to do this. I need 3 volunteers, brave volunteers. 1, 2, 3. Okay, they're close. Sorry, that makes it easy. Come on here. So let's do this. It's called getting to the desk. Let's call it getting to Pat. You can pat when you do this. That'll be good. All right. So green tie man, we're gonna have you be right here. Okay. I'm gonna take this off. I'm gonna use my band rush voice. Okay, I'm going back this way. What's your name? Grant. Grant. It's Brian. Okay, Grant, come on back here. You're gonna go right here. Come on back. What's your name? Jason. Awesome. Come on back here. All right, so here's what we're going to do. This is a great way to teach students about differentiated instruction. So we're going to call this getting to Pat. And Brian here is going to take 3 steps, and I want you to really help him out, make him feel proud of his accomplishments if he makes it. Okay, Brian's going to take 3 steps and get to Pat. Go. 1. Oh, he's going to get there. 2. 3. Get over Brian! I've been doing this a lot of times. I have not seen anybody do that so well. Next one. 3 steps. This is Grant, right? Yeah. Program. 1. He's going to make it. I know he is. 2. 3. Okay, getting the pen. You got this, man. Are you ready? All right, 3 steps. Come on, they took 3 steps. You can take 3 steps. It's really no problem. Go for it. You have to walk to 1, 2. Oh, fail. Now, why did he not make it to Pat?
Because he's a drummer! I'm kidding.
All right, so it's not completely fair that he couldn't make it up here to Pat, because why? Obvious answer. Yeah, he's too far away. It's not fair to have the same expectations for him as the other 2 guys. Okay, and that's the way it is with everybody in anything that we do. You may have somebody that's really great at counting and clapping rhythms, but they can't produce the best tone quality. We might have somebody that's great at tone quality, etc. Those kind of things. So let's give it up for our volunteers. And for participating today, we're going to give you a lovely iHeart Chunk shirt. All right, so that's great. So that's a great way to teach students about our expectations. They're a little bit different. There's another thing. I like to put this on the wall of the band room. This is the golden rule of band. We all have different gifts and talents in music. And if we all use those to help each other out, we're going to be a true ensemble. We're going to learn how to work together. So using your talents to help and encourage others will benefit everyone in the band. Put that on your band room wall right up in the front as big as you can so that they know that. And when you have a student that is talking big, is talking like, hey, I'm amazing, that kind of thing, say, hey, you may be good at that, but we all need to help each other out. So you're teaching students how to be leaders and work with each other.
And to that point, Richard, I like to tell my students when we do this get to the desk, it's one of my favorite times of the year. We call it getting to the door because my desk is buried. But when that third student doesn't get to the door, I have them stand there for a minute and I say, did you all see where that student started? Well, now look at where they ended up. They're a lot closer today, aren't they? And the students get pretty excited about that because they're not all going to have quick success. They're not all going to have instant gratification that we want them to have. But they need to understand that we're okay with that, and they need to understand that their classmates support them. And so I really love that demonstration. Here's how we implement chunking. We've got 4 levels of chunks. They need to be performed in order. A lot of students are going to already know how to count 8th notes. Well, you need to wait till chunk 6 for 8th notes. First, you need to show me that you can keep a steady pulse, that you can do quarter notes, half notes, etc. And so the chunks need to be performed in order. Each chunk does teach a new concept, and so it's a hierarchical learning style. They're going to need to be able to do this and then build on it to perform the next chunk. We perform rhythm chunks by clapping and counting. That way we're crossing disciplines for those of our students who are linguistic learners and some are kinesthetic learners. We want to make sure that we allow them both opportunities to do that. And when they perform their scale and their snare chunks, those are actually performed on their instruments. So we're doing scale on instruments or snare on their actual drum or drum pad, and then we're doing rhythm by just clapping and counting.
There are wall charts, as I mentioned before. This is a great way for students to mark their own progress, have ownership in their learning. You can use a different sticker for each month. It kind of looks like this. And students are really motivated to see their progress on the wall of your band room. And great thing, like when I have a conference with a parent, before that conference I could go over to the wall chart and see how they're doing on their note reading and how they're doing on their rhythm reading, how the snares are doing on the rudimentary playing, that kind of thing. So you're not going to have to write anything in a grade book.
So when we've done this in the past, we've had a question at the end of the clinic where people say, well, what about tone quality? What about articulation? What about phrasing? Well, that's all up to you, the director. But what we have found to be the most successful is mastery of the chunk. We're asking them to be able to play on chunk 1 the first 5 notes. And if I have a student who can play those first 5 notes, I want them to move on to chunk 2. They may not have the best tone, but that's why we have jobs. Over the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I'm going to help that student develop that tone. I don't need it now because I know how to be patient. Our students do not. And so we want them to master the chunks so that they have success. Each student may have a different goal. You're going to have those kids that want the perfect tone, and they're going to work to that, and that's fine. You're also going to have those kids who have no idea what a perfect tone sounds like, and I'm going to be okay with that for a little while. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to teach them. It doesn't mean that I'm telling them, hey, you have great tone when it's nails on a chalkboard. It means they're mastering these skills. They're learning how to be literate on their instrument. And it's obviously our responsibility to continue to assess that constantly and to give them that feedback.
So here is a student that is learning a new concept, learning how to play over the break on the clarinet. And he's not playing with the best technique. He's not playing with a really great technique at all, actually, but he's in this place on his journey. And as he moves on to the next exercise, then I can kind of work with him on his tone quality and his technique just a little bit. I'm sure you've all heard that clarinet sound before. But for him, that's a huge accomplishment to be able to get that. So now in his journey, he's understood how to play up over the break. Now he can work on some other things. Now, another thing that we have to do as directors is we have to adapt for our gifted learners that are in need of a challenge. And this little guy here is a phenomenal French horn player, is a 5th grader, but he can't play a high F. So he has, on his own, figured out how to play this down the octave, which is impressive, playing in that range.
Isn't that awesome? So I asked my high schoolers when we were getting ready to do this presentation, how many notes did they learn in 5th grade band? And a lot of them said, 6, 7. So we've got a 5th grader learning chromatic exercises just by experimenting with this chunk book. And he's developing some musical knowledge, taking it down an octave. That's really good stuff. Here's what the rhythm chunks look like. You can see they start very simply with quarter note, half note, whole note, rests, and rhythms. You'll notice they progress. And over on the left side of the page, you see big arrows. Those arrows point to kind of the code breakers, what I like to call them for my kids, as to how to learn these chunks, how to learn these rhythms. That way, every student is not waiting for you to feed them. They're able to feed themselves, and that's one of the best parts of doing something like this. The students get to be investigators. They get to figure it out. And obviously, you'll have some of those times when the students don't get it right, but they're trying, and then you can help them and guide their instruction. And they're very motivated by that. You mean I don't need to listen to you tell me how to do it? Neat.
All right, so different ways to use rhythm chunks. These are done by counting and clapping. Tell the students they must be confident counters, so they count loudly, so I know they're all participating in that. The chunk clap, if you would take 2 fingers, hold them up like this, and in your other hand 2 fingers like this, hit them together as hard as you can. That's as loud as it is with however many people there are in here. If you clap, put your hands together and just do a regular clap. Go. You can imagine what that's like when you put everybody in a band together. They're all practicing, all doing this as you're going around and checking students. It's going to be like crazy loud and stuff you're not going to be able to hear. So while they're going around until it comes to their turn to a rhythm chunk for you, they can do the chunk clap. You can also do breathing exercises, which we'll do in a little bit with the rhythm chunks. And you can play a repeated note or a scale pattern on each part of it. To kind of time to see how quickly we can assess our students, let's all do this rhythm chunk together. We're going to count underneath the notes. You see that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And you can use any counting system, but right now we're going to do that. And I'd like for you to go ahead and clap on the rest. Just do this, like, I don't know. Okay, here we go. And we'll time it. 2 and ready and go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. So in 10 seconds, we just assessed the student and we told them, watch out for measure 3. I want you to look at how those 8 notes are counted. Look on the left side of the page and you move on to the next student. So they're taking ownership of their learning. They're figuring it out. I love the quote, when in doubt, figure it out. Now, that's not the same as like when I had a math teacher in high school and I said, I don't understand number 14, and she said, neither do I, next question. That was rude. This is, you can figure it out and here are the tools to do it. All right, so the chunk clap. Now, we're going to use the chunk clap so we can hear our breathing a little bit, and we're going to do wind pattern. We're just going to, but with our hand, we're going to go one step further. So we're going to do the chunk clap, and we're going to do the wind pattern. Ready? 2, and ready, and go. So you take it a step further, then the next thing you would do is maybe play it on your instrument, if they're having trouble with that aspect of it.
So here's what the scale chunks and the scale skills look like. They do start very simply. It's hard to see up there right now, but they start very simply with most method books' first 5 notes. Concert B flat up to concert F and then back down. And then each scale skill does add another note so that the students are stretching. The students are building a nice fundamental foundation of fingerings and notes. And again, on the left side of the page, you do have some tips to allow the students to be those investigators so that they can continue. Here's how we implement those. All of the skills are played on instruments. Again, they need to be played in order. Some students love to look ahead to those chunk challenges. We don't let them do that. You need the foundations first, and you need to show us that you have those foundations, and that comes in the daily assessment. Some of our students work so hard, or they have older brothers and sisters that will show them the chunks, and then they memorize them. We don't want that necessarily. We want to develop literacy so that they can read. Every time they get a new book in 5th grade reading class, they don't need to relearn how to read. They just need to read that story. And so we want that in our band class. So sometimes we can have them play it backward. You can have them start at measure 3, just to make sure that they're not learning orally, but they're actually learning how to read. Each instrument has its own different program. So your clarinets are going to cross the break in the bronze chunks. Your flutes are going to start to develop different octaves. And your brass players are going to play lower in their register early and then develop higher in the register as they progress. We say rule number 2 in chunks is no writing in the notes. Make sure that your kids are reading. We don't want them to write down and learn that that's a B flat because they always write B flat or F sharp, everybody's favorite. We want them to read the notes. New notes are identified with a box around the notes so that they understand, oh, this is something that I need to check out. And we want them to be familiar with the fingering chart in the back of their method book. We like to pair these chunks with a method book. The chunks is definitely not a method book, it's a supplement. And so they've got their method book, they're looking up fingerings in the fingering chart, they're being investigators, again, taking ownership in their own learning.
So, we can also teach concepts for dynamics and so on and so forth. So we were doing a reading before we were on the way in and on the way out. We were like this, so we can also create the same feeling and awareness when we're in a crescendo or a decrescendo when we would be doing these concepts. So, and then for every one of these situations, the idea in terms of using wind patterns relates to playing a wind instrument, the only people in the room that need this much wind are the tuba players. Nobody else needs that. It's overtraining for everybody else. But if the concept is do it easily, then when they go to their instrument, it's easier. We're equipping them to be able to have a better engagement with the instrument. I've been teaching brass players for a really long time, and I have yet to run into the consistent students like, man, you blow away too much air. And if you have one of those, give them a tuba. And there shouldn't be any question. Oh, you blow too much with the clarinet. Here's the tuba. Right? Immediately. So this isn't like these air concepts are about making sure that they're moving, and then when it's time to go to their instruments, our instruction is, hey, this was more air than we needed, so now it should be easier to put their bodies in a place where they're moving more air than they ever would normally. So let's do this one together. And when we get to the place where the crescendo happens, we'll keep it out there and we'll bring it back in. And your goal is to keep the feeling on your hand the same with the wind as it moves away from you and towards you. We'll get a nice organic crescendo that happens in this. So we'll do this one together. All right, and we'll do it in wind. We'll start nice mezzo forte about halfway out. We'll do forte, will be all the way out here. When we get to the end of this piano, let's bring it all the way back to here. All right? Just to give ourselves a feeling of what that kind of crescendo is in the air. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and. Move it out. Nice and relaxed. Move your hand in, all the way down. And relax. So much better for them to be able to have this idea. So this is not only about a small chunk of music, but a skill chunk. Moving your hair like that is a skill that's separate from any other kind of skill. So this is a great way to study it. Right? Then you can create all types of guides for dynamics. So if I'm thinking about moving out for, let's say, 4 beats, right? 6 beats, it's sort of in the mezzo range. Extend it out, longer beats out, it's going to be softer. I'm moving my hair evenly because it takes longer to get there. And if it's louder, it's going to be shorter. So I can have a concept for dynamics where if we're used to blowing out for 4 beats together, it's like, that's forte, everybody. If we're used to blowing out for 8 beats together, that's piano. Or however you want to define it. So that this idea has some reference applicable for playing. So you sit down, it's like, oh, I'm playing for a whole note and it's marked F. I'm supposed to move 4 beats, speed air. And they're so used to doing it because we do this every day. It's 3, 4, 5 minutes together at the beginning. It's also a way to take this idea of moving in and out statically and putting some quick into it. So a wind pattern is always great. So let's do it again, and now we can work on articulations. So those of us that can see it, we can really emphasize it for those that can't. And making sure that we're working on good tenuto and good separation on the staccato, and also working on this, and nice accents too. So let's do this chunk together, and work on our air, because we can teach all the concepts that we need about articulation in terms of how the air moves, and then just put the instrument in front of them after that. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and. Relax. Very good. Excellent. So here's a student that's applying what we just did after doing the breathing exercise.
So as we're moving forward, here's a little bit about our snare chunks and snare skills. They are performed instead of rhythm chunks. We want our snare players to not be stuck in just clapping and counting land. We want them to incorporate that onto their instrument. So whether you're using a drum or a drum pad, we want them to incorporate that on their instrument. They still have the rhythm chunks, so if you want to use it as a classroom exercise, you can do that. But they're also emphasized in there. They're learning the dotted quarter note and their bronze snare skills, and they're moving on in that way. And there's also rudimental learning as well. And we teach the dynamics in kind of the same manner. Have the drumstick 3 inches above the head for a softer dynamic, have it 12 inches above the head for a louder dynamic. Here's what they look like. Very similar to the other chunks. And then they are broken down into this.
This would be an example of a multiple bounce stroke in a visual representation so that they can see how it actually is played. And this is my daughter, who's now 10 and in band, but this is her when she was 6 years old. Wanted to see what would happen if she went to play a snare drum flam exercise. So 3 inches there. It's all right to awe for my daughter. All right, this is a 5th grader who is very excited about, she's playing on the 4th level here.
She's fine. Those chicken wings. She's a doll. Chicken wings.
So here's an example of chunks in action. This is my 6th grade band 2 years ago, and this is a homogeneous class where I've got everyone in there at the same time, and you're going to see me bouncing from student to student. I'm going to go ahead and play while I talk a little bit, and you can hear that there's a bit of cacophony in the classroom. And my administrators have stopped before and asked me what's going on, and I show them quickly, and I let them experience my quick assessment of every student, and they're shocked at how every student is working. Every student is learning, every student is exploring, and Richard's going to tell you something else that's going on here.
Notice the girl in the white headband in front here. She's struggling with something right now, and Mr. Van Gorder doesn't have any idea that that's happening, but watch what happens. She seeks the help of this girl in the flute section. She says, yeah, I'll help you out. So they get together, and they solve the problem. All this is happening while Josh is walking around working with the rest of his class. They are developing leadership skills, and although there's some sound happening in the room, they're all working independently.
I love that sound, by the way.
We all have heard that sound. So incentives, some ideas quickly that could be positive ways to motivate your students. You can provide rewards for reaching goals that maybe the students set. Differentiate those goals where necessary. If you have a student with a learning disability, for example, their goal might be a little bit different from a student that is a gifted or talented student on a higher level. Also, something to try, maybe a recruitment concert where you are allowing the students that reach a certain level to perform more difficult music and even perform for the students that are going to sign up for band. They see their student or their friends that are a year or two older performing this level of music and they say, hey, I could do that too. Caught doing good raffle tickets. Student does something absolutely wonderful, give them a raffle ticket at the end of the quarter. Raffle off prizes donated by parents. Those are like crack for students. Pins or zip ties. This is actually Mr. Wilson, who's right up here. This is from his band, Summit Academy down in Arizona. They have pins for bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And this is one of my students with her zip ties, bronze, silver, gold, and platinum colored zip ties. They have Pat's son has a big trail of zip ties going down from his belt kit, which is lots of fun.
So it's important that you get creative. This is your program, and we definitely want you to set some goals for your ensemble. These have worked for us. You tailor them to your own program. Do at least 5 minutes of breathing each day. I would even up that to 10 if you're able to do that. Assess your students and do it often. We put 15 minutes a week. I would say at least once a week. Make sure that you're hearing every student individually. And I know that that sounds like a daunting task, but with a program like this, it works very, very well. Students like to work together, and that's a really good thing because of what you saw in the video. Let some of those more experienced students help some of the younger ones. If they're working on the same chunk, let them figure it out together because what that does is it reinforces our golden rule of band. We don't want our students just to come to band, we want them to become a band. And I think that that's huge, and something like this, allowing them that ability to work together, that's incredible for our kids.
So you can read about the sort of ideas about better breathing, but for me, it comes down to when somebody actually looked at it. So we sat down, we're going to go through 10 weeks of essential elements. I'm going to have one set of classrooms that are going to do essential elements only. I'm going to have another set of classrooms that do breathing for 5 minutes in its routine and then go into essential elements. I'm going to put my two bands together in week 10. This was a doctoral study at Arizona State University. When they met in week 10, the people that were only doing essential elements were at about week 9.5 in 10 weeks. Really great, normal, average progress. The people that were spending 5 minutes, getting rid of all their energy, getting ready to learn, and using something separate, skill like breathing, essential for playing, they were at week 16 or 17. Same thing. So breathing is a learning accelerant because it makes machinery simpler, it breaks down less, there's less to talk about. And we get to quicker, more characteristic sounds and better pitch centers because they can make characteristic sounds because they're blowing. So we have to address it every single day.
And very quickly, when you implement differentiated instruction in your class, you're going to have students retaining more information. You're going to retain more students in your program. You're going to have students that learn how to work together. You're going to have students that are able to perform well above their level. How about a 5th grader playing in B major? It can happen. Better habits form from consistent assessment early before they get older and move into your high school band and have these bad habits. And director's going to be aware of all of the students' strengths and weaknesses. Think about this. I'll leave you with this thought. Everybody has that student in your classroom right now that may be a future professional musician or amazing music educator. And it is our responsibility to make sure they have all the tools, everything they possibly can, so that they can go on and do the absolute most amazing thing that is in their potential to do. So that's what our job is. We have the best job in the world. We do. And we need to love our students, give them the tools, and however you do that, whether it's through this program or anything else, just remember how important you are, and what we do is really just an awesome thing. So the best thing about all this is our students are going to be excited about band, and we give them those tools. So we are going to be Josh and I will be down at the exhibit hall. Pat's going to be all over the place. He may be down there for a little while. He'll be playing at 2:45 in front as well. But we'll be down there at these times, actually right now until 2:30 at the Stanton Sheet Music booth. And then tomorrow from 10 to 11:30 a.m. if you want to find out more about our program, the Chunks program, and here's our email address as well.
Thanks so much for coming out today, everybody. Let's give it up for Rick and John. Thank you guys. Thanks so much for coming.